Our Wildcat football fans already jumping off Kevin Sumlin's new era bandwagon. How a guilty plea in the college hoop scandal spells trouble for ex-assistant Book Richardson and his Nike's Just Do It ad featuring the kneeling anthem protester Colin Kaepernick. Brilliant or plain stupid? These stories and more next on the 520. Welcome to the 520. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Marty Mott of the Fourth. Thanks for joining us.
And after week one of the Arizona Wildcats' new era, man, did you get it wrong?
Did I? I'm sorry I believed in you for once, Steve.
Well, hey, I'm expected to root for my Wildcats and pick my Wildcats. I don't care. Every game, I do not go against my Wildcats. But you know what I think did it?
What?
This towel right here. Okay. Yeah. Look, it's orange, man. It's not even Wildcat red. That's why.
Well, this is my fault. This is my fault, of course.
All right. New era, same old Wildcats. We now know U of A football coach Kevin Sumlin is the only one who can stop the dynamic play of Khalil Tate. Arizona lost to a BYU team that went 4-9 last year, 28-23 on Saturday. Sumlin and offensive coordinator Noel Mazzoni put the shackles on Tate. A Heisman hopeful rushed for 8 times for 14 yards in the air. Tate connected on half of his attempted passes, finishing 17 of 34 for 197 yards and a touchdown. And to add insult to injury, after receiving criticism, Sumlin, who begged fans to support the team and buy season tickets, said the following, quote, "Everybody is going to have their opinions of what should have happened and what could have been done, but realistically, those don't matter unless you are part of this football team," end quote. Now, you know, I'm a big Wildcat fan. I love Kevin Sumlin. I said he's the opposite of Sean Miller, but I'm going to call it like it is. He pulled a Sean Miller on U of A, his players, and the fans by coaching to his system as opposed to coaching to his talent, which is Khalil Tate.
Let me start off by saying
and I know you're going to disagree with it.
Let me start off by saying this. It was such a messy tornado, drywall screws in a blender Saturday. To put the blame on one single party, it doesn't do anyone justice. It does no one no good.
The players look confused.
On the subject,
Tate was lost.
On the subject of Khalil Tate, what I will say about him as a quarterback is this kid cannot identify a passing lane to save his life. Go back and look at all of the executed passes that he had, even the scoring opportunities. It was by the seat of his pants, just by a hair, that a linebacker or a safety did not make the play on him.
Artie, did you see any slants?
And I'll tell you what.
Did you see any
on
outs?
That matter, they do have to find a happy medium with Khalil Tate. Kevin Sumlin, what he's used to is Johnny Manziel.
Did a tight end catch the ball?
Let me get to it. What Kevin Sumlin's used to is a guy like Johnny Manziel. With Johnny Manziel, you let him loose, you take the reins off of him, you let him run away from the carriage. I don't think Khalil Tate can create that sort of opportunity for the Cats. He needs to be guided. He needs a little bit more training wheels than that. If he's going to throw a dart, he hasn't proved that he can. The only one that I say he did is when he rolled out of the pocket, hit J.J. Taylor.
A dart, but if you're putting him in third and long and he's dropping bombs on you, of course he's going to have a percentage of 50% in completed passes.
I agree.
Which they threw way too many passes, 38 yards or more. It was ridiculous. The game plan. Arizona, Kevin Sumlin sold us a box of hopes. All we got was a box of chocolates. We didn't know what the hell we were going to get. He had 6 months to prepare for BYU, and the team looked awful on offense and on defense. Our 3 linebackers had 28 combined tackles. Guess what? When your linebackers have only 2 tackles for a loss of 28, guess where they're making tackles? Way too far down the field.
And to your point, Steve, let's not forget to blame Marcel Yates. Let's not forget to blame the defense. The offense was slowly starting to pull themselves out of that hole they dug, and all of a sudden, on a 3rd down and 2 yards to go, they couldn't make the play. They couldn't capitalize on the opportunity that the offense created for them. The defense is to blame here too.
All right. Are you surprised U of A basketball coach Sean Miller is keeping a tight lip on whether or not Ira Lee will face disciplinary action following his DUI arrest? Well, UAPD released body cam video showing Lee failing several field sobriety tests. Lee got busted for super extreme DUI for blowing at least a 2.0, which is more than twice the legal limit.
How's it going, man?
It's all right. I mean, my grandma died yesterday.
Oh, yesterday? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, man.
It's okay.
Just right over here. I don't really have a choice but to place you under arrest for DUI. I'm sorry that your grandma passed away, okay? I'm sorry about that, all right? And I hope...
I mean, you cannot help but feel really bad for Ira Lee. And you just hope the U of A does the right thing and gets him some help. But when you compare how Miller is reacting, nowhere to be found, versus Kevin Sumlin, one of his players made a racial slur, and Kevin Sumlin was swift, decisive, and kicked him off the team. I'm not saying Miller should do the same with Ira Lee because the kid needs some help, but he should at least come out and address the community and say, here's what we're doing for him.
I agree, and Sean Miller's always been known to be such a micromanager. He's got his nose and his hands in everything, and we haven't heard a peep from Sean Miller if he's delegated this to someone else and let someone else deal with it. We don't know the actual circumstances, but what we know is that it looks like he does not care about it right now.
You would think Sean Miller would have already learned from the past sins of what has happened within the internal happenings of the U of A basketball program. A rape investigation, steroids, suspensions, FBI investigation, and not come out and support this kid publicly.
And to support the kid and also support the team, and of course it has its repercussions on the entire university as a whole. We still haven't even heard from that.
And that's my one big criticism of Miller.
I agree.
All right. Well, does a guilty plea from a so-called sleazy key figure in college basketball's corruption case spell trouble for former U of A assistant basketball coach Book Richardson? Well, financial advisor Munish Sood pleaded guilty to felony bribery and conspiracy charges last week. Sood is one of two men who gave Richardson 20 grand in bribe money to steer top recruit, believed to be Javon Quinterly, to sign with him once he turned pro. So now this sleazy guy becomes a snitch for the FBI and prosecutors against Richardson, but not a good sign for Richardson.
Not a good sign for anyone, and so frequently we all just want this to go away. We want it to be over. Let's wait till our day in court. And Book Richardson's name is the repetitive one. It's the one that we always find up the stream, and if
and that's because Arizona is the big-time program.
Of course.
It's been named in this FBI investigation. Not to mention that ESPN screwed up its investigation and revealed this story that accused Miller of paying DeAndre Ayton 100 grand when no one knows that for a fact.
Of course, and that's the difference in the two situations is Book Richardson, if he wants to protect himself, if he wants to protect his professional brand, he has to clip the cord somewhere. We don't know where that cord is, but he has to cut it, he has to burn the bridge, put out his chemtrail, because whatever's following him is keeping him in this entire loop.
And talking to some attorney friends, the only good news about Sood pleading guilty is that the defense can now use his sleaziness against him and make him look bad and discredit him for the jurors.
I hope so.
So there is some little glimmer of hope.
Little glimmer. We can see the light.
Well, it's time now for Rapid Fire. I fire off a topic with the local sports connection. Artie fires back a rapid response. Keep in mind, Artie has no idea what I'm going to throw at him. So here we go. Goodbye, University of Phoenix Stadium. The Arizona Cardinals and State Farm reached an 18-year agreement to rename the team's home facility in Glendale State Farm Stadium. State Farm Stadium or She-She-She or Shed?
The She-Shed of Arizona. It's a fun name. It's a good name. We saw Banquet Ballpark go away with the rebranding of Chase Field. It could be a new beginning.
More tickets sold, better venue. What do we see? What's the benefit?
I don't know. It's a good time. We don't care.
Yeah, I don't care what the name is. As long as the Cardinals win, that's what I care. All right, before Sunday's game between the Cardinals and Washington, a Native American activist group known as Arizona to rally against Native mascots, plans to protest calling for the retirement of the Redskins mascot and logo. This is not going away.
No, and the last time the owner addressed it, he said verbatim, "We are never, ever getting rid of the Redskins name and logo." I don't foresee this happening anytime soon, but I do think this does need to be looked into a little more vigorously.
All right. Well, it's official. Ex-Wildcat and Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles will get the season opener start at quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you said he was not good enough to continue on as quarterback.
Nick
You
Foles,
went against him in the Super Bowl.
Go ahead.
He won.
Okay.
You went against him in the Super Bowl again. MVP. Come on, man.
Nick Foles is starting on Sunday because Carson Wentz has absolutely chainsawed in half his entire knee cartilage and muscle. He's not going to recover from that in 1 year, to be exact. So give him a little bit more rehab time, but Nick Foles is not the prophet.
Nick Foles is a starter.
The best of a bad situation.
That's all I got to say. U of A basketball coach Sean Miller said he would stay away from one-and-dones, but now he's hot after five-star recruit Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Here we go again.
Here we go again. Like we've said 100 times before, have you sat down with Earl? Have you picked his brain, dissected his shortcomings, established a four-year goal? Have you done any of that? If not, I don't care who he is.
All right. Well, finish this thought for me, okay? Arizona quarterback Khalil Tate has a better game than Houston's dominant defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, because
he was managed by Kevin Sumlin. I will give him that. Kevin Sumlin's getting paid a lot of big bucks to make a lot of big decisions. I trust him to make those decisions. Don't let him run wild.
How do you think this return is going to be with Kevin Sumlin going back to where he started, Houston?
It's going to be hot and heavy, and I tell you what, I'm here for it. It's entertainment for me.
It's going to be Arizona, baby, all the way.
I got to agree with you on that one.
Come on, Khalil Tate. So, is it a real police officer or a dummy cop pointing a radar gun at you? Well, TPD recently deployed mannequins dressed as police officers on the south side to force speeders to tap on their brakes and slow down. Well, police say they've seen a drop in speeding violations. Check this out. I spoke to some police officers, one who's retired, and he feels that using those mannequins is a form of racial profiling. Prove to me that it is or isn't.
It can be, but in the defense of the police department, the streets are absolute anarchy right now. The amount of infractions that are foreseeably in the future.
So only targeting the south side is not, cannot be perceived as racial profiling?
And to that point, I don't think they've gotten around to 22nd and Colby yet, put it to you that way. But I do know that, you know, on the interstate, past the Speedway exit, it's an absolute anarchy. It looks like the water wars out there.
Until they do, though, that's a perception it's creating. Not just amongst everyday citizens, but police officers who are also retired, and they've yet to go to 22nd and Kolb. They've yet to go to Broadway and Kolb or Grant and Kolb. Those are the most dangerous intersections in Tucson, and the deadliest, not to mention. So until they do that, that's the perception you're going to create.
Of course, and I think that if there was such a jump to this conclusion, and if it was so concrete, the police department would come out with at least a statement, or they would continue on this little fairy tale that they have for it. But we haven't seen that yet, so that's what it looks like. And I gotta say, I can't let it check out all the way.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I don't care if they use the mannequins, but to me, it's a sign of how short-staffed Tucson police is. They're at 800 officers at around. They should be at around 1,200. But writing less tickets means less revenue for the city. Not good.
Less revenue
Use
for the
that
police
money to
department
hire more police officers, ticket speeders, man.
Of course, make it good, make it work.
Except if you see me driving down the street, then
easy there, Steve.
All right, let's jump right into Do We Care? As you know, we love to tackle community issues and not just sports and ask ourselves, do we care? So I'll get started. The Pima County Board of Supervisors voted to terminate $1.4 million in federal grant money known as Operation Stone Garden. The money is used to help the Sheriff's Department pay for overtime and equipment costs in connection to drug and human trafficking crimes. Do we care?
Stories like this come up very frequently in this country of ours, and every single time it makes a headline, I always ask everyone, well, what's the plan B? If we're making cuts, what's going to fill those wounds? What's going to fill those patches? We don't know what that is right now. And that's a scary sign, because any sort of human and drug trafficking crimes need to be made a priority. It's a priority in LA, it's a priority in New York. It should be a priority here.
Sheriff Mark Napier hit the nail right on the head and said this was purely political by the Pima County Board of Supervisors, because let's look at this. They're cutting this funding off because they don't like the Trump administration's policy on separating children from their parents at the border. But what is this money going to do to change that policy? Meanwhile, you're taking law enforcement officers off the case of drug and human trafficking. Wow. How ridiculous and pathetic is that?
It looks bad.
It looks really bad.
Couldn't say it myself. Governor Doug Ducey tapped on former Republican Senator Jon Kyl to fill the late Senator John McCain's Senate seat. Kyl served 18 years with McCain in Senate before retiring in 2013. Do we care?
Jon Kyl is a U of A grad, so he's got one really big supporter in him when it comes to being a Wildcat.
And for another
reason. Of course, another reason, John McCain's wife, Cindy, supports him. You know who else really loves the fact that he was appointed to take McCain's seat? President Trump. You know why? Because Kyl is not McCain. He is not a maverick. He is a yes man. And of course, he signifies a yes vote for Brett Kavanaugh, who is probably on his way to become the next Supreme Court justice. That's why he was appointed. Period. Like it or not.
On the opposition of that, it's very hard to replace a Senate seat. Yet again, a Senate seat from John McCain. So if there was anyone on the Republican side to fit it, Jon Kyl would be a good fit. And of course, there's no such thing as a perfect politician.
And all kidding aside, just because he is a U of A grad and he's great, smart, and everything else, just the fact of the matter is that he knows Arizona, and he loves Arizona, and he represents Arizona well. Really quick, City of Tucson is teaming up with Zipcar to bring car sharing to downtown Tucson. The one-year pilot program is starting off small with one car located in front of the historic train depot. Car can be used by Zipcar members starting at $7 per month and $7.50 per trip, up to 150 miles. Do we even care?
Yes, but I also think that the city is also bailing on their own public transit projects. In the meantime, they haven't really put any resources into fixing the problems and shortcomings of it, so this is just an absolute bail on them.
Fix SunTran. Fix the Sunlink. Ridership is down. Prices are up. Fix those rent-a-bikes, those yellow bikes that are parked all over downtown.
Cost $1,000.
It's not, I mean, come on. Seriously, one car as a test pilot program is not going to teach us anything.
It's not going to help anything either.
Get out of the business of trying to get in the business of mass transportation unless you know what you're doing. Seriously. Well, you've heard the phrase, oh, no, you didn't. Well, here at the 520, we're not afraid to tell it like it is with, oh, yes, we did. Well, Nike revealed its new ad campaign for the 30th anniversary of Just Do It, featuring former San Francisco 49ers controversial quarterback Colin Kaepernick with the quote, "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything." Well, the actual commercial features athletes who overcome physical issues to compete against others. Kaepernick narrates the ad. The decision to use Kaepernick, who started the kneeling protest during the national anthem, has drawn fire, including some unhappy fans who have burned their Nikes. Let's think about this for a second, though. Take Kaepernick out of this. We know that he started these protests for inequality and oppression. Okay? Look at Nike. This is a company that makes its shoes in places and countries like China, the Philippines, and they use cheap labor and child labor. and they want to be the face of inequality and oppression.
My point to that is it's very tough to jump to any conclusion like that. It's very tough to stamp it that way. That's a business decision by Nike.
Take business away. They do business, so they make their product in these countries.
Of course. And that represents oppression. And I'm not for it.
Workers.
And I'm not for it. I tell you what, though.
They pay them cheap labor. Talk about inequality and oppression. Why should they be the face of it? That's why people should be mad. Don't be mad at Kaepernick for being the face of the ad. Be mad at Nike.
To tell you what, though, that is a business decision by Nike. It was not a business decision for Colin Kaepernick to put himself in these shoes. If it was a business decision for him, he would have continued. He would have put a halt to the protest and he would have continued to be a football player. And I think that's kind of where Nike wants to separate themselves in this entire debacle. They want to not receive notoriety, but they want the entire public to know, they want the consumer to know that the fight that's being held here at our own front door is supported by them.
Who's the least hypocritical?
I think the most neutral, the least hypocritical would be the man himself, Colin Kaepernick. He's talked the talk, he's walked the walk, and he's held his tongue with the strength of 1,000 elephants. I could tell you what.
What about the NFL?
And that's exactly what we need here. We need the support of somebody with a strong arm like Nike to come to the support of Colin Kaepernick, because the NFL hasn't, the owners haven't. A lot of the players that need to come to the support of him haven't. I think this is a great shove in the right direction.
To me, they're all hypocrites. All of them. And when you look at this, okay, you have the president who is a hypocrite for dismissing and dissing John McCain, a man who wore the uniform and served our country proudly and was a prisoner of war. You have his supporters who diss McCain, and they're criticizing Colin Kaepernick for doing the same, which he isn't. But then look at Nike and what they're doing. Then look at the NFL. The NFL is taking money from Nike. That's why Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys are quiet right now, aren't saying jack about it. More importantly, if the NFL wants to take a stand, then stop taking money from the federal government and the military to host these national anthem pre-game ceremonies. Then it's genuine, and that takes out them being hypocrites.
That's one way to put it, man.
All right. Whew.
Glad we touched on that.
Starting to get heat up there. All right, before we go, take a look at this video clip of the week. Allegedly, the Twitter sphere is saying 94-year-old Bob Barker, look at that man right there, challenged ex-Wildcat Dane Creekshank to a one-on-one while visiting the Tennessee Titans practice camp. And Creekshank got played. Whether it's Bob Barker or just a Titan specialty coach, homie still got paid. That price was right.
I'll tell you what, and if I had a nickel for every time I saw a Wildcat defensive back get beat, that would have made me a millionaire.
And you know what? You probably would make me a millionaire if I bet you on that, because I would look like the gray-haired guy, the older man. I would take you to score on the field.
Let's see it, man.
I would score touchdowns.
I'll throw the Nikes on.
I'll
throw the Nikes on.
Oh, I got Nikes on. I'm a hypocrite too.
Let's see
But
it.
that's okay, because I'm not burning these shoes because I stand for something.
We'll put it that way then.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode of the 520. Our goal is to tell it like it is, because it's all about giving voice to opinions, even if you don't agree.
Be sure to follow the 520 on Facebook and on Twitter at the 520 Tucson.
And if you have a topic you want us to cover, send us an email at the 520@KVOA.com. I'm Steve Nunez.
I'm Artie Mata IV. Join us next week on the 520.
Go Wildcats.